Mario. I hate Mario. In all seriousness, I don't think there's anything that influenced me more than this strange Italian man. And while the 3D Mario games left a bigger impression on me, Mario is primarily a 2D platformer series, and even though they're less ambitious, most of them are nothing short of a great time. But given that this series is almost 40 years old, you can't expect constant bangers. In fact, some of these are kinda poop. So I thought for a big video to end off the year, I played every 2D mainline Mario game, from the Stone Age to the supposed Dark Ages to what seems to be the start of a new era, and I ranked them all from garbage to goated. Now I'd say let's get things started, but before that, I feel the need to clarify what I'm excluding from the list, you know, to avoid the I forgot blank allegations. So first off, I'm not doing any Yoshi or Wario platformers. I know that Yoshi's Island is subtitled Super Mario World 2 and Wario Land is Mario Land 3, but they just have those titles to let you know this game is related to Mario. Back then, Yoshi and Wario weren't all that well known, so they put Mario in the title to get people's attention. Also, I would have to play the rest of the Yoshi and Wario games, and yeah, I don't want to do that. No remakes or collections of games either, but I will be using the version of Luigi U from Mario U Deluxe since that's the only way I'm able to play it, but it's pretty much the same game as the Wii U version, just a small edition, so it's fine. Also, no Makers, no Mario Run, no Mario vs. DK, and no game that came out before Super Mario Bros. But that should cover all the ground rules. Let's take a look at every 2D Mario platformer to see which of these games are Mario Burger and which are Luigi Burger. For context, Mario Burger has bacon, which is based, and Luigi Burger doesn't have bacon, so it's cringe. The Toasto Cafe actually has some great food though. I just wish the reservation system wasn't so bad. I mean, you have to make a reservation to wait in line. That's so dumb. Oh my god, no way. Super Mario Bros. 2, which was renamed to Lost Levels outside Japan, is infamous for being one of the most unhinged Mario games. A game so brutal and anti-player that Nintendo would never make it today. This game's whole deal is that it's Super Mario Bros. But much harder, which I will say sounds like a great sequel to the most influential game at the time. Just a shame that the result was a living nightmare. Now, I remember not having a good time with this game in the past, so replaying it for this video, I was preparing for the worst. But I was actually surprised how solid the first world was. I'd say it's actually pretty good. To win the game is surely more challenging, but just the right amount. 1-1 really gives you a good idea of what this game is gonna be. For instance, one of the first blocks pops out the new poison mushroom and
I guess he got the wrong mushroom.
The first actual mushroom you have to earn by using the blocks to bounce it onto the ground. This is a perfect demonstration of the game having you work for everything. And the rest of World 1 felt like natural difficulty progression, and it was kind of a good time. I will say I wasn't really liking the changed art. The ground tiles and background clouds weren't nearly as appealing as the original. The design of the mushroom looks better though. Other than that, I was pleasantly surprised that this wasn't as bad as I remembered. But once you get to World 2, everything just goes to shit. Suddenly, the difficult yet thoughtful level design just becomes cheap and questionable for the sake of being hard. Like, there's this lengthy part where it's just flat ground and spams a bunch of Koopas. They start reusing the infinite loop gimmick in the castle levels from the first game, and now they last even longer. They added this wind mechanic that makes movement jankier than it already was. The timing to get the high jumps in the springs is awkward, and they revolve levels around the worst hazards from the first game. Like in 4-4, this level was driving me insane because of how much they use the fire bars, a hazard with really choppy movement. They use Hammer Brothers a lot more, but not in the right context. You see, the reason why I like the Hammer Bros as an enemy is because there's a different solution to defeating them. Instead of jumping on top of them, you have to hit the brick underneath them. That's what makes them an intriguing enemy to overcome. But nah, let's just put them on the ground and have the players jump over them with unpredictable timing. Or you know, you could just brute force. Without using the brick blocks, they're just everything people hate about the Hammer Brothers. And this is an example that they really put good game design in the back seat and prioritize being a hard game, whether it be fair and well structured, or in most cases, Miyamoto wants to see you cry. An infamous example being 2-2, where there's this long gap in the ground and you wonder how you're supposed to get across. You try to jump as perfectly as possible, but nothing works. And keep asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? Well, guess what? You're just stupid, because there's obviously a hidden block that you can use to get up to the pipe. But what's that? You still can't make it? Well, obviously there's a second hidden block that'll let you make the jump, which is to the left of the screen. Come on, did you not think to look left? You know, in a game where the camera can't move left? All intuitive puzzle solving here, folks. How about having to jump on a paratrooper at a precise position or you're just dead? Or how about the big ass wall that you can't get over unless you also find invisible blocks? Or how about, now this one, I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I first ran into this. A warp pipe in World 8 that sends you to World 5. A warp pipe that sends you back. And again, you can't push the camera to the left, and when you get a game over, the continue point is set to the start of the current world, so entering the pipe also overwrites your save point.
Why did you do this? Because it's fucking funny! It's called having a sense of humor and laughing! You should fucking try it once in a while!
You know what, I will give Lost Levels this, it's really funny. Like, I couldn't help but laugh hysterically whenever I ran into the most unhinged level design. As much as I dislike this game, I have to give credit where credit is due. It's definitely not boring. It is very entertaining, and dreading what wacky shenanigans awaited the next level was what encouraged me to play until the very end. That being said, it's fun for the wrong reasons. Not from genuine enjoyment, but from the laughs and shock value from its unhinged nature. Oh my god. No. And this ranking isn't based on those things. It was still a painful experience overall. I was so relieved to beat the final Bowser, only because it meant the game was over. I guess it does fit the niche for a super difficult Mario game, but outside of that, Lost Levels couldn't be anywhere else but at the bottom. The game is a mess, but for what it's worth, it's quite the entertaining mess. What the fuck is happening?
I want my feet licked.
Unfortunately, the other Super Mario Bros. 2 isn't that much better. You guys ready for a history lesson that you've never heard in your entire life? You see, Lost Levels was a sequel to Super Mario Bros. In Japan, but they assumed that gamers in the US wouldn't have the skills to play it. They would assume correctly. And so we got a different Mario 2, which, fun fact, is a reskin of a different NES game, River City Ransom, which is why the game plays quite differently than your typical Mario fare, like grabbing things under you and throwing them, different playable characters, vastly different level pacing, different weapons you can pick up from enemies, and of course, eating glass. I first want to say that I don't dislike Mario 2 simply because it's different. Whenever a new game in a series gets experimental with its formula, I'm all for it. I'm just not a fan of this particular approach, because every cool new thing this game does, there's always a but. The mechanic of pulling plants out of the ground, whether it be turnips to throw at enemies or potions that spawn doors to another dimension, don't ask, is a neat concept. But it becomes an annoyance when this mechanic is used for progression, like with the boss fights or using bombs to pull up rocks. Since it's hard to be precise if you're throwing, it's a bit frustrating when the game asks you to be precise. Having multiple playable characters, each having strengths and weaknesses, is also a neat concept. But why would I ever pick Toad's faster speed or Mario's nothing over Luigi's high jump or Peach's hovering? The character abilities are unbalanced, and sadly it wouldn't be the last time this would happen. The levels have different structure and pacing than a normal Mario game, but it's not better or even good structure and pacing. I feel like the levels drag on for too long, and I wouldn't have a problem with that if they were fun, so it's a shame that they're not. Like I mentioned earlier, the parts where you have to use bombs are tedious. I don't like the sand levels where you have to dig down to Y-56 to mine diamonds. That one level where you have to find the key inside one of the dozens of vases and there's not even a hint to which one.
This is the most obnoxious thing I've ever experienced in my life.
And there's not much variety of themes either, and it leads to the levels blurring together in my mind. Like, I could not tell you what goes down on 5-2. I like all the new boss characters like Mauser, Birdo, Wart, and so on, but they're not good boss fights. It's just throw stuff at them a couple times, and like I said, it's hard to throw things precisely. And I think it's excessive having to fight Birdo at the end of every non-boss level. The music is really catchy, but it's the same 2-level music over and over again. Even Mario 1 had 4 different level music. The overworld and cave themes really start to get repetitive by the time you're at like World 5. I think the character and world building is what this game does best at, without a but. Subcon looks and feels like a much different realm from the Mushroom Kingdom, fitting given that this turned out to be all in Mario's dream. And this game added a few mainstay characters that I really like, such as Birdo and Shy Guy. It at least has a soul, unlike Lost Levels, a hollow hellscape. I commend the effort for going for such a vastly different approach, even if it's only just different because it's a reskin of River City Ransom. I wanted to like this game, but this just didn't do it for me. It was pretty tedious and often frustrating to play through. If you haven't played it, I would just play the first world or two and then opt out because you pretty much got the gist of it at that point.
It's me, Mario.
This is a warning to all the 40-year-olds watching. I would click off right now because you're not going to like what I put next. While I'm not a huge fan of the original Super Mario Bros., I respect it a lot for what it stands for, how it's undeniably the most important and influential video game of all time. Before this game's release, the video game industry was in shambles, pumping out insane amounts of slop that people wanted to wipe video games off the planet. And then some Japanese guys were like, okay, here's how you make an actual good game. Fucking idiots. Appealing pixel art, smooth controls, at the time at least, level design with actual thought put into it. This seems like the bare minimum nowadays, but it's only the bare minimum because of this game. So you hear that, kids? If Super Mario Bros. Hadn't saved the industry, you wouldn't have your Fortnite or mascot horror of the month. I'm saying all this because I want to express my massive respect for Super Mario Bros. Before I get to the less nice stuff. Because while it must have been a masterpiece back in '85, almost 40 years later, it's fine. The art is a bit goofy, I mean, Mario looks like a smoker, but that's about what you'd expect for a game at that time. I bet the controls felt great back in the day, but naturally it doesn't feel that good for modern standards. I found it really awkward that your speed slows down in the middle of your jump. The level design is really solid, there weren't nearly as many mind-boggling encounters as Lost Levels would have. World 1 is what people remember the most, and for good reason, because it has really well-designed levels. It felt like every block and enemy placement had thought put into them, and has smooth difficulty progression, but I'd say it has the same problem with Lost Levels where it peaked at World 1 and starts to fall off. But the fall off isn't nearly as harsh. The next couple of worlds were still decent enough, but the last few felt very been there, done that. And then there's levels that are outright bad, like those infinite loop castles. There's no puzzle solving going on here, it's just trial and error. And it's worse than in Lost Levels because there it at least played a sound to indicate if you took the right or wrong path. Here you have to remember what paths you've already taken, and it very much sucks. 8-4 abuses this gimmick and it ends up being my least favorite in the game, which sucks considering it's the final level. And because of the later levels being either uninteresting or obnoxious, it hinders its replayability. Thankfully, you don't have to play all the filler levels because of the warp zones. I like this feature a lot, it rewards you for exploring outside of the box by letting you jump ahead a few worlds. Other than those things, I don't really have any other notes because, well, it's Super Mario Bros. Do you honestly need a deep dive on Super Mario Bros? I still think it's decent, it's a fundamentally enjoyable game, I just wish it kept up the momentum from World 1. Even though I just played this recently, I can't remember all that much about those later levels, but other issues I have with the game, like the weird physics and small variety of level themes, I can let off easily because of its age. It would be like if I criticized Steamboat Willie for having no color. Not a game that holds up as well as it did in '85, but I cannot deny how revolutionary it was not just for Nintendo, but gaming culture as a whole. Also, fun fact, this is my dad's favorite game, even though this is one of the few he actually played and couldn't get past World 4. So I wonder how he feels about me ranking this third worst. Sorry, Dad. The new Super Mario Bros. Series. Everyone's favorite series of games. Yeah, these are some of the most criticized Mario games for their bland and recycled theming, with each entry in the series not doing enough to give itself an identity, and it felt like they kept releasing the same game over and over. Now, when I started the marathon of all the new games, I was expecting to be bored out of my mind for the next 2 weeks, but honestly, I didn't really have a bad time. In fact, I enjoyed these games a lot more than I thought I would. They each do a lot more interesting things than people give them credit for, but one of them ended up being about what everyone says a new Super Mario Bros. Game is, stale visuals mid-gameplay, and gives me barely any reason to replay it, and that was new Super Mario Bros. Wii. First off, just look at this. This is the merchandise game. You may have seen these renders of the Mario cast at Party City, and that's because this is the safest a Mario game has ever looked. It has zero spice, and I wouldn't have much of a problem with that if you weren't such a bore. As I was making my way through Worlds 1 and 2, I was feeling zero emotions. I was hollow inside. The theming was generic, the music was from the game I just played but less good, and the level design was just... It felt so barren, like there were stretches of nothing separating all the obstacles. And this was intentional, to accommodate for the new feature of this game, that being 4 people can play at once. I'll give Wii this, multiplayer is pretty fun. Bouncing off people's heads or throwing them into their death, brilliant. Okay. I love it when games have aggressive co-op, like you're still working together, but you can still screw with each other just for the hell of it. But the problem with Wii is that when you revolve the levels around 4 players, when you're by yourself, you don't have other people to fill in the void. You can't mess around with other people while you're doing the mundane parts, such as running through a series of rolling hills, or slowly riding on the spinning square, or Roy's Castle where they brought back the looping hallway gimmick, and somehow made it worse because it now has slow-ass auto-scroll. However, funnily enough, Mario Wii sort of has the inverse of Super Mario Bros. Level decline, where once you get to World 3, it's actually pretty good. There's less stretches of emptiness, the difficulty ramps up a fair amount, and you get to use what might be my favorite Mario power-up in this series, the penguin suit. I love the penguin suit. The design is peak, it has funny walking noises, you can shoot ice balls, which is funny how it makes the ice flower redundant. It has faster and better swimming controls, and my favorite part being you get to slide across the ground and ram into stuff. It's sort of like the blue shell from DS, but you have more control. You can't get better than a power-up that's useful, fun to use, and has a goofy design. Oh, I guess there's also the main new power-up, the propeller mushroom. It's fine, just another height-based power-up, there's better ones like it. Really, the game gets better as you progress. World 6 onwards are especially strong. It's when they know that all the kids have given up, and now it's time to test the pro Mario gamers. And by that, I mean somewhat challenging. This game never gets that hard. The bosses you'll be fighting throughout these worlds are the grand return of the Koopalings. They definitely have their haters, claiming that they're overused, but I don't know, I kinda like them. This was the first game to use them in a long time and gave them their modern designs, so if anything, I'd say this game's use of the Koopalings is a plus. The world maps are pretty neat too, and are a big step from DS's level selects. I love World 6's map where you climb up the mountains while avoiding bullet bills, until you reach the clouds that naturally transition to World 7. As creative as the map designs can get, they're all the same world themes from DS. The snow, beach, and jungle world's order got shuffled, but that's it. Alongside the recycled music just made me feel like I was playing a worse version of the first New Super Mario Bros. Like sure, it had additions that I really liked, such as bringing back Yoshi and adding this new mid-air flip that can help you get more distance, but at the same time it does some things worse. Star coins in the previous game were used to unlock alternate paths on the level select, but here it's just to unlock post-game levels and hint movies. Infinite one-ups. That was 5. The presentation isn't as charming either. I mean, that's literally the Arial font.
Graphic design is my passion.
And in general, Wii doesn't do much to stand out from the rest of the new games in retrospect. DS had a unique aesthetic, 2 had economic inflation, and U was just Wii but better level design and graphics. So why would I play this when U is down the hall and to the left? As much as I've slandered Wii, it's really not bad. It's just a Mario game, and that's it. It's the default skin of Mario, the ice soup of Mario if you will. And to be honest, while I was playing this, I just wish I was playing newer Super Mario Bros. Wii instead. You should totally play that if you haven't, it's one of my favorite Mario fan games. So overall, Mario Wii just sort of exists. It's not bad, but just not particularly great either.
Mario's back, out to save that crazy Princess Daisy.
Super Mario Land is an odd fellow. This was a tricky one to rank because, on one hand, the game is only about 30 minutes long. It only has 4 worlds of 3 levels in each. But on the other hand, it was a pretty enjoyable 30 minutes. I didn't love any part of the game, yet I didn't hate any either. As you'd expect for a platformer on the Game Boy, the controls are pretty rough. It's mostly the jumping physics, like Mario falls like a brick. And lots of deaths had me pull a gamer move and blame the controller, but I got used to it pretty quickly. It only became an issue during parts where you have to make more precise jumps. The controls were really the only issue I had of this game. What I think made such a short game so memorable is just how different and weird it is from a usual Mario game. We're not in the Mushroom Kingdom, but rather Sarasa Land. Instead of rescuing Peach from Bowser, you have to defeat this alien named Tatanga, I like him simply for his gremlin energy, and rescue Princess Daisy. Because, you know, Mario got that Riz, shut up. Nowadays, seeing Mario and Daisy as a thing, it just feels wrong. The fabric of reality would fall apart. Instead of the fire flower is the Super Ball flower, where it bounces off the walls and floor. For some reason, the invincibility theme is the can-can.
Go ahead, I'm capturing the footage.
How dare you think you can defeat me? You cannot defeat me. I possess a sword if I was not afraid to use it, so you can abuse it.
And with the version of Koopas in this game, when you step on them, they explode. Actually, there's a bunch of strange enemies that are exclusive to this game, like these jumping zombie guys, these robots that are just happy to be here, but my favorite has to be the Toko Toko. The way they run across the screen with the choppiest 2-frame running animation gets such a kick out of me. Make these guys playable in the next Mario Kart and have them be the meta character, it'll be the funniest thing ever. The level themes are also pretty unique, with the Eastern inspired world and the funny bra emoji world. Does a good job at making Sarasa Land feel foreign from the Mushroom Kingdom. I really like all the music too. Budo Kingdom is a great main theme, and I'm at an age where I can dissociate the song from SMG4. And Buddha Kingdom has such a happy vibe to it, like I'm walking to school to learn about fractions. There's also these horizontal shooter levels. It's nothing crazy, but it's a neat gameplay change from running and jumping. That's really the best word to describe Super Mario Land. It's neat. Not a great game, but it was never trying to be the next big thing. Just a bite-sized, easily replayable Game Boy game with a lot of charm. And I think they did a great job doing that.
just like new!
Okay, now we're getting to some actual good food, although it got a bit trickier to rank these next ones. So understand that even though I ranked the original New Super Mario Bros. All the way down number 8, I still like it a lot. It's just that I ended up liking 7 games more. New Super Mario Bros., which I've been referring to as DS just for clarification, seems to be most people's favorite of the new series. It's not mine personally, but I can definitely see how it could have that title. After all, this was the game where the new label actually meant something. I mean, just compare the previous 2D Mario game to this. It's night and day. And not just visually, but also mechanically. It's influenced a lot by the 3D games with implementing the wall jump, ground pound, and triple jump, and they all work so well in the second dimension. Bowser Jr. is back from Mario Sunshine, you'll love to see it. And you also run into a few Mario 64 DS characters like the Scuttlebugs, Plessie, and the Unagi Eel. It adds a lot of charm, and it's a shame that the other new games didn't take inspiration from whatever the current 3D Mario game was. Like, if we had more Galaxy tie-ins, it honestly could have saved it from mediocrity. Lots of what this game has to offer is stuff that everyone eventually got sick of, but DS gets a pass from all that as, again, this was all brand new at the time. Running through the grassy plains and sandy deserts was refreshing and joyous before it got mundane and depressing. Collecting the 3 star coins in each level provides a fun little extra challenge, or in my case it mostly ends with me dying. The squeaky clean new art style was actually a fresh take at the time, and I think it looks best in this game. Again, the way the DS blended 3D assets on a 2D plane is really appealing to me, and I think it's because of the limitations of the DS. It also explains why Wii was far less appealing, since that console can easily handle 3D, their implementation was straightforward. Something that this also has over its successors is what might be the most creative bosses in the series. You have Petey Piranha returning from Sunshine, a Pokey Mummy, Big Fish, Big Goomba, and they're all pretty fun to fight too. Except for the final boss, it was pretty underwhelming. It was just fight Bowser and Bowser Jr. at the same time. But that reminds me, I almost forgot this was the game that introduced Dry Bowser, one of the most badass characters in the franchise. The way they introduce him is kinda hard too. When you first drop Bowser into the lava and then you see this. Oh, that's gore. Anyways, let's talk about the bottom screen. I think they use it pretty well. It lets you know how much progress you're making on the level, so dying is now especially more painful when you look at the bottom and find out you're almost at the end. And the item reserve system is back from Mario World, now a bit easier to use. And on the bottom screen, you can see that the world progression is a bit out of the ordinary. You see, you only have to beat 6 out of the 8 worlds. From World 2, you can either go to 3 or 4, and from 5, you can do either 6 or 7. I'm on board with this branching path mechanic simply for the fact that I can avoid the world where almost every level is underwater. Though, I'm a bit mixed on how you access the alternate path. You have to beat the boss of the world and exit the castle as Mini Mario. I don't know how most people think about the Mini Mushroom, but I think it's an effective anti-power-up. You need it in order to get into small spaces, but movement is a lot floatier and you die after one hit. It's a fun challenge trying to get through the castle level and defeat the boss while being heavily nerfed. The problem I have with this is that access to the Mini Mushroom is a bit scarce. Unless I'm missing some arbitrary hidden block, the easiest way I can naturally get a Mini Mushroom is at the World 2 castle, meaning I have to beat the Pokey Mummy every single time. Otherwise, you need to beat a level where one of the flying red blocks is hovering over and hope it's a Mini Mushroom. They really should have made them more accessible because how it is now, it's pretty tedious how you have to go on a goose chase whenever I need to be tiny. I'm not that huge on the other new power-ups. The Mega Mushroom was the main one that they advertised, where you grow big and destroy the level. And that's pretty much it. I don't like the Mega Mushroom. It feels a bit counterintuitive to have an ability where you can just blow through all the obstacles. That's like if in a Zelda game, one of the dungeon items you get is a walkthrough. The blue shell is pretty entertaining though. Once you're fast enough, you bounce off the walls like a Koopa shell, and it's not easy to break out of. So really, it's a use at your own risk sort of item. But I can't forget to mention the versus mode. It is insanely fun. 2 players hunting each other down for the stars with all the different items you can use to terrorize each other. Nothing strikes fear in me like my opponent getting the Mega Mushroom. If I'm being honest, it's more fun than the single player campaign. This game also has all the mini games from Mario 64 DS, and they're still as peak as always. So New Super Mario Bros. DS, although not one of my favorites of the new series, is still a pretty solid game. Even being the first of the series, it still stands out a lot from its successors, yet I still end up preferring the later new games a bit more for being more polished and expanding upon the ideas from this game, which we'll get into that pretty shortly.
What inspired you to build a second New Super Mario Bros. Right next door to the original?
Money!
Ah yes, New Super Mario Bros. 2, the third New Super Mario Bros. Game. I think what they meant by this is that this is supposed to be the sequel to New Super Mario Bros. DS, and we wasn't a sequel. I don't know what they were cooking here. Although maybe this title was perfect because this really does feel like more New Super Mario Bros. It's like the first game with the branching world structure, the use of the bottom screen, and the star coins being actually worth a damn, except now with references from Wii. And by references, I mean plagiarism. The Koopalings ambush Mario and kidnap the princess again. The basic level themes are the same from Wii. Almost all the music is the same. Some got a cappella mixed into them, and I'll say this is my favorite version of this main theme. But like, this is the third game in a row to use the same main theme. Other tracks just got more buzz, and even some like the world map themes are exactly the same from Wii. In fact, the World 1 map is almost a cut-in copy of DS's World 1 map. He really went, dude, can I copy off your homework? Sure, just don't make it obvious. Even one of the power-ups is a Tanuki leaf returning from Super Mario Bros. 3. I don't know what was with the early 3DS era and nostalgia pandering to Mario 3 fans. And now Reznor from Mario World is back as the mid-world bosses. Glad they're appeasing to the Mario World fans by adding nobody's favorite boss. So yeah, we're not getting off on the right foot. It seems like everything about this game is just a culmination of stuff you've already seen. And I was expecting a pretty boring and forgettable experience. But then I played it and I was like, oh, wait. This is pretty good, actually. Yeah, I was surprised to find out that New Super Mario Bros. 2 might be getting more hate than it deserves. Like, of course, it's not doing much innovation on a larger scale, but on the scale of a New Super Mario Bros. Game, it does so much more of its own thing than later titles would. But first, I feel the need to address that. Yeah, I couldn't get a 3DS capture card and I didn't want to download an emulator, but rest assured for this video I did beat the whole thing on my own time. So everyone in unison say, thank you, Pack Attack. Of course, we have this game's main gimmick. Money. There are coins everywhere, spewing out of the pipes, spilling out of the blocks. There's even rings that turn people into walking ATMs. Mario can also grab the gold flower, where he gets the curse of King Midas and can turn some objects into coins. This may just seem like over-sensory, and it kind of is, and it's working, but it does offer an objective unique to this game, to grab as many coins as possible. The coin counter doesn't just reset after reaching 100. At the end of the level, they'll be added to a total coin counter, and this carries throughout multiple playthroughs. It's cool that they have a way to measure your playtime of this game since the day you started, but mostly I think the reason why I like the coin counter is because big number go up. Me happy. There's one problem with this though. Collecting 100 coins still gives you an extra life, so yeah. They were even aware of this and gave the life counter a third digit. I feel like the better way to solve this was to have 1,000 coins give you an extra life, or remove that feature altogether. It doesn't really matter that much because this game is pretty easy anyways. The branching world structure is handled in a way that I much prefer over DS. There's now 6 numbered worlds on the normal route. The beach world fused the jungle world, and the sky world has like one mountain level. The other two are World Mushroom and World Flower. I wish they used this opportunity to make new world themes instead of, you know, Green Dimension. But the plus side of having no world theme means you get a variety of individual level themes. The way you get to the secret worlds is so much better than how you did in DS. You have to find a secret exit that leads to the cannon, and while it'll normally just be a cutscene, you actually have to do some work by clearing a short auto-running section. In some cases where they're reusing ideas from the last 2 games, they at least give a cool spin on it. And that's further demonstrated in the levels themselves. Sure, at its core they're the same grass, desert, and snow themes from before, but they do throw in a bit of spice. Like there's this grassland level where you can fly toward the top of some trees, a mountain level with a pretty sunset, a level where you scale totem poles. Some of the ice levels use that one mountain background from Super Mario World, gamer reference. This one sky stage uses some stone architecture of plants growing around it, and so on. Beyond the aesthetics, the levels also revolve around some fun ideas. 3-A is a mini Mario obstacle course. The ghost house in World 4 has boos move around the walls. Even the final level has you try to avoid the flash of the Koopaling's clown car to avoid getting turned to stone. I'm not that huge on the final boss though, it's just jumping across platforms. Not huge on the Koopaling boss fights either, they mostly have the same gimmick they had from Wii. Yeah, really what this game suffers from the most is having its own identity. Like sure, it does have its coin gimmick and a bunch of unique level elements, but they should have gone further than that, because on the surface, it still looks and feels like just another new Super Mario Bros. If it committed to its ideas and fully departed from the new Super Mario Bros. Formula, this could have been even better, but as it is now, I'd still say it's pretty good, and a better version of the DS game, as it does many things that game did, but better. Well, apart from the economy, the Mushroom Kingdom is for sure going to collapse after this game. Sometimes I feel like I'm the biggest new Super Mario Bros. U defender. I think it's very much overhated. And at the time this was released, I can kinda see why. I mean, this was what they chose to be the launch title for the Wii U. They wanted to showcase their first HD console by giving us a Mario game one could easily mistake for another. Not to mention that this was the 4th new Super Mario Bros. Game with the same style and gameplay, releasing only 4 months after New Super Mario Bros. 2. Yeah, I can understand how fans were a mix of confused and disappointed. Nintendo Land was a far better demonstration of the Wii U, and in general that game slaps. Mario U has a questionable existence, to put it lightly. But as time progressed, and now we live in a world of Mario Wonder, I think this game has been used less as a punching bag. And I'm hoping more people give this another chance because, despite being released at the wrong place at the wrong time, I always liked this game quite a bit. In fact, I think it's the best new Super Mario Bros. Game. I think most people actually see this as the weakest one, because while it commits the same crimes as the previous games by feeling too samey and adding few actual new stuff, U is the worst for being the 3rd game to do it. But I have a more glass half full perspective when looking at the new series. The fact that each installment is like the one before it but does a couple new things means that each game should be better than the last. Although in Wii's case it was a downgrade from DS and it sort of got replaced by U for being an overall better version, which is why I see this as the ultimate new Super Mario Bros. Game. It has everything about the series that I like and adds even more stuff that I enjoy. I'm gonna start by defending this game's presentation as it gets hit with the looks exactly like Mario Wii allegations. Now I'm not gonna deny it does look similar to it, but if you think they look exactly the same, I've got just the thing for you. Some of these. There's clear distinctions between the two from the different level backgrounds and ground tiles. The plains are no longer littered with those pill hills in the backgrounds, and they instead have tall acorn trees and jagged mountains. The desert has giant layer cakes and ice cream cone structures. The ice world looks a lot prettier with the starry night sky. And of course we have that one level with the Van Gogh art style, aka the level where everyone goes, "Oh, why didn't the whole game look like this?" Well, yes, that would have been awesome if the whole game had a paintbrush art style. I don't think the rest of the game is too far behind in being pleasing to the eyes. Like, come on, you gotta admit that Shipwreck goes hard. And another thing about Mario U that I feel goes underappreciated is its world map. We finally have a full map again instead of having each world have their own individual map. I think it's a fun map to traverse with all the bite-sized obstacles and puzzles. Although, the way it has secret paths to other worlds is a bit funky. In Super Mario World, the routing of all the branching paths felt more natural from how close together everything was. But since Mario U's map is more linear and segmented, it leads to paths that skip to further worlds being very long and elaborate. But I don't know, if anything I think it's kind of funny how much they try to maneuver around the main route. But that does lead to my biggest gripe with this game, what I think was huge missed potential. The story of Mario U shakes things up a little, where instead of Peach getting kidnapped to Bowser's castle, Mario and the gang get sent far away from Peach's castle, and so the objective is to rescue Peach from her own castle now taken over by Bowser. Well, that sounds like a fun subversion. Does that mean the world themes are going to be in reverse order? Or we're going to start in a lava world and then make our way to the grasslands? Oh, we start at the grasslands again. Oh, the world themes are all in the same order as usual.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's kinda lame. They set themselves up for a fun subversion, but then they threw the second half of that idea out the window. Like I said with New Super Mario Bros. 2, the new games never commit to their actual new ideas, and make sure that the overall game sticks to tradition. We were this close to seeing something groundbreaking, but they chickened out. But that's really only my big gripe about this game. I think it still has some neat stuff going for it, even if the signs of something better still bothers me. For starters, there's actual names for the worlds and levels now, which is more creative than just calling it 5-4 or something. It introduces Nabbit, a character who somehow stuck around. Not that I hate him, I think he's cute. I just think it's funny that he of all people became a reoccurring character. I think the new Flying Squirrel Acorn is far better than Propeller Mushroom from Wii, as it's good for both height and distance. The baby Yoshis are so fucking funny, they make me want to merge without looking. And other than those things, it's just about what you'd expect from a new Super Mario Bros. Game. Mario still has a fun moveset, the star coins are still challenging to collect, and the level design is overall really solid still. But I have to talk about my favorite part about Mario U. The challenge mode. It's similar to Mario Kart DS's mission mode where it gives you different objectives than simply clearing the level, whether it be reaching the flagpole as fast as possible, collecting a bunch of coins, perhaps avoiding coins, getting 1-ups from stepping on enemies, surviving until the time runs out. These are really fun, and getting the gold medal can be pretty tough at times. I mean, you gotta be pretty much perfect for the time attack challenges. And it's a shame that I don't really see many people talk about the challenges from Mario U, which I guess explains itself. It's because it's the challenge mode from Mario U. It's not exactly a cultural impact, but it is a good time, I do declare. This game as a whole is a good time. Even though lots of what it has to offer is stuff you've seen many times before, I think this is the best form they've taken. It suffers a lot from the common new Super Mario Bros. Tropes, but between all those games, this one is the most polished and refined, and in my opinion, the best of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Now notice how I say the best new Super Mario Bros. Because
Is it green?
New Super Luigi U clears all of the new games. It is no contest. Some of y'all might not count this as a separate entry since it's sort of a DLC or New Game Plus for Mario U, but it was sold as a separate game, so I'm counting it. So do you guys remember the Year of Luigi? Nintendo sure remembers the Year of Luigi.
Oh no, Luigi.
I know it gets mocked for being Nintendo's worst financial year, but you know what? I really liked it. The games they released in celebration of Luigi, Dream Team, 3D World, Dark Moon, they were all great games. But I remember one I wasn't impressed with at first, and that was New Super Luigi U. And I can see why, because while these are all fresh, exciting new installments to their respective series, this was telling me that this is Mario, but Luigi. And once you look inside, yeah, it's almost the exact same game as New Super Mario Bros. U. The opening cutscene, the level select, the story progression, the visuals, all the same as before, just with a few tweaks. First off, Mario seems to have passed away, so Luigi takes the leading role. But this game also served as a more difficult version of Mario U. Luigi has a floatier jump and slippery shoes that he's known to have, and they replaced all the levels with more challenging ones. Mario U was a ridiculously easy game, so this serves to hopefully satisfy the more experienced players. But you know, it's still a new Super Mario Bros. Game. We're still in for a pretty safe game. Oh my god, that is a giant bullet bill. Yo, this level has the entire floor made up of water spouts? Yo, this level's got the funny Moai dudes moving around? Oh my lord, these skewers are fast. You make platforms by freezing fuzzies? This entire level is a penguin suit sliding section? Oh my god. This game rocks. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I really like Luigi U's levels. They stray so much from the typical structure and decide to have fun, and I love it. Really, there were very few levels that I didn't like. They all start with only 100 seconds on the clock, so they're short but oh so sweet. They introduced late game enemies much sooner, but the most shocking part about Luigi U was that it was challenging. I was actually losing lives. I had to actually lock in on a few levels, thanks to a mix of Luigi's loose controls and the levels being fairly difficult. I'm not making this out as some sort of Kaizo, but it's definitely something that more experienced players will enjoy a lot. This is sort of like Lost levels now that I think about it. They both serve as harder versions of an existing game, but unlike Lost levels, it's both difficult and well designed. Although maybe they do go a bit too far when it comes to star coins. Some of their locations are so cryptic, like, yeah, just ground pound in a specific part of the floor. Yeah, now that I think about it, most of this game is Mario Maker foreshadowing. What's preventing Luigi U from being one of my all-time favorites is the fact that most of it is just Mario U. I would have loved it if there was new level themes, a new world map, or new bosses, because when I played this right after Mario U, I was annoyed that I was experiencing a lot of a game that I literally just played. But it was always intended to be a remix of Mario U, rather than an entirely new game. So the fact that this is my favorite New Super Mario Bros. Game, but 10 times more fun, this has to be the best game in the new series by far. And the good news is, we're finally done with all the new Super Mario Bros. Games. These last 4 are not only bangers, but also much more distinct from each other. So rest in adequacy, New Super Mario Bros., and in my heart, every year is the year of Luigi. Man, I forgot how good Super Mario Land 2 is. I was expecting it to be somewhere in the middle of the ranking because, although it has a lot of charm, I didn't know if the gameplay was on par. But I'm happy to report that it mostly is. Mario Land 2 follows in the footsteps of its predecessor by being weird in all the best ways. I mean, you have Jason Goombas. Need I say more? The story is as delightfully out of left field as the first game too. After the events of the first game, upon returning from Sarasa Land, Mario has found that his castle, yes, Mario owns a castle, no, it's never brought up again, has been taken over by his evil counterpart Wario. Look, no matter what you think of Mario Land 2, it was the game that graciously brought Wario into the world, so it deserves everyone's praise just for that. So we gotta collect 6 golden coins spread throughout different worlds to open the front gate and throw Wario out of our castle. This has to have the most creative world themes in the whole series. It's not like the last couple of games we talked about where it's just grass, desert, snow, jungle, and so on. We got a giant tree, outer space, a spooky valley, a house of Mario about the size of an ant, and even Mario himself is a world. There's a level that's placed on his balls, and the level is made up entirely of balls. Top 5 adult jokes in Mario. Not only are these fun ideas for worlds, but you can clear them in any order you want. The entire map is open to you from the get-go. Although I usually don't stray too far from the intended order, it's great how open this game is nonetheless. It means I can get Turtle Zone out of the way. I don't like the Turtle Zone. because I'm a gamer and I hate water. I really like the art for this game. It's a massive improvement from the single-celled organisms of the first game. The music is also great, especially the Star Maze theme. I gotta give mad props to the sound design team who are able to make such great music and sound effects for this brick. As for the power-ups, we have the carrot, where Mario gets rabbit ears and can hover as long as you mash the B button. Well, yes, it is quite broken. If you mash the button fast enough, you can infinitely hover, but that's what makes it such a fun power-up. Sometimes oversights can be a blessing in disguise. Even without abusing the carrot item though, this game is pretty easy. The bosses have simple patterns, and really the only one that was somewhat difficult were the 3 pigs. Although this game's not too easy where it's boring, just that none of them really force me to lock in. It's just the right amount of difficulty for me to stay engaged. That is until we get to the final level. Whenever people say that Mario Land 2 is a great game, most of the time they give an asterisk, meaning except for the final level. And yeah, it's not great. It's pretty demanding, and while I wouldn't have a problem with that, a final level should be this ultimate test for the player, it's a huge difficulty spike from the rest of the game. The downside of letting you beat the zones in any order is that they were all designed with the same levels of difficulty, and so nothing really prepares you for the final level. Chances are you're going to be dying a lot on this level. And for some ungodly reason, if you get a game over, you lose all the golden coins you obtained and have to fight the respective bosses again. This serves no purpose other than padding. It's honestly idiotic. They sort of compensate this with the 1-up slot machine. You have a global coin counter like New Super Mario Bros. 2, and you can spend them on slots to potentially get a bunch of lives. Just goes to show that gambling solves all your problems. I think they added this so the player can have plenty of retries for the final level. And if that's the case, that's kind of a cheap workaround for the problem where they instead should just remove the problem entirely by having smoother difficulty progression. Super Mario Land 2 does make a few questionable decisions, but I'm willing to move past all that from how great the visuals, music, theming, and the majority of the levels are. It does fumble in a few places for it to be considered one of the best 2D Mario games, but it gets pretty close to that title. It's better than any of the new games because it actually has balls. It's not afraid to be bold and do some weird shit, and it leads to a very creative and charming game. It's definitely worth your time if you haven't played it already. And if it brought us Wario, really, how bad could it be?
Wake up! It's time to leave Dreamland!
What do you know? Ranked at number 3 is Super Mario Bros. 3. And now I have to convince you that I didn't just rank this here because 3. It's so shocking to me how much better this is than the other NES games. Only the 4th game in the series, and they really figured out the ideal Mario formula. Starting with the physics, the momentum with the running and jumping feels super nice. Slowly building up running speed where once you're sprinting you can pull off a high jump, and being able to grab and throw objects is a great addition to Mario's moveset. This was also the first game to have power-ups outside of the Fire Flower, and they all became iconic. First off, we have the Tanuki Leaf, aka the power-up that Nintendo likes to milk to death. It's a great power-up though, being able to take off and fly in the air. The variation where you can turn to stone is cute, albeit kinda useless. And then there's the frog suit that has you hop around on land and swim faster underwater, and the Hammer Bros suit, which I don't even need to sell you one. You can kill people with hammers. Although I do have a problem with how these power-ups are handled in-game. You could have played the entire game without even seeing the frog or hammer suit. They make them super rare for whatever reason, and it's a shame such interesting concepts are underutilized. Meanwhile, they put the leaf in like half the levels. I guess a spin into a positive, it does make getting the rare power-ups all the more special, and it also encourages exploration, something Mario 3 does exceptionally well at. This was also the game that introduced a level select. Instead of simply beating one level and moving on to another, now you can choose what your next level will be, with fun little distractions in between like enemy blockades and toad houses, giving you items in the new inventory system that I also really like. This was revolutionary to the series for expanding the scope of a Mario game outside of just running and jumping, and of course it would become a staple in future games. Much like how they had some secrets in the levels, such as the iconic secret in 1-3 where if you crouch on this one white platform you'll go behind the stage and get a warp whistle. That's what I love most about Mario 3. It's such an open and imaginative game, both aesthetically and gameplay wise. I like how it all takes place in a stage play. It gives a unique art direction with set pieces bolted into the walls or hanging from the ceiling. We got some more unique world themes like a world with a bunch of pipes or a world where everyone's just absolutely chunky, and they each have their own king who got transformed into a different animal by the Koopalings. I like the one that's literally just Mario, and of course Jesus Christ. Also yeah, this is the game that introduced the Koopalings, characters that many fans would later want to burn with fire. Like I said before, I always kind of like the Koopalings, and that's no different here in from their debut. I saw this one post where it says that on Mario 3 you can beat Roy 4 times by using all 3 warp whistles in the game to warp to World 5, and I tried it myself and it was as stupid as it was comedic gold. The fact that I'm still finding new things to do in a game that's over 35 years old just shows how timeless this game is. The music, the controls, the pixel art, they all still hold up. Really, time has not made this game any worse, and you have to be a really special NES game to be getting this much praise from a Zoomer. Super Mario Bros. 3 is the biggest example of an enduring classic, and by far one of the best games on the NES. And with that brings us to number 2. This was the hardest part of the ranking because I just couldn't decide which of these last two was better than the other. I played them both back to back, putting both nostalgia bias and recency bias aside, and finally concluded that while one of them is the better game from a more objective standpoint, the other is my personal favorite. And my personal favorite would be...
Mama Luigi?
Super Mario World was a masterpiece at its time and still is today, and second place is nothing to scoff at. If Super Mario Bros. 3 ran, Mario World sprinted. With how strongly it expands upon that game's already innovative ideas, they transformed the level select from Mario 3 into one giant map of Dinosaur Land. I absolutely adore the design of this map. It's so open with how many different paths there are, to the point where the normal route with all the Koopaling castles is really just a suggestion. For example, you can exit the Vanilla Dome 2 different ways, and each takes you to a different segment of Butter Bridge, or finding warps to Star Road where you can take huge shortcuts to other warps on the map. Even at the very beginning on Yoshi's Island, you have the choice to either progress to the right or go to the left to activate the Switch Palace. The Switch Palaces were such a neat concept, with activating blocks in certain levels to make them easier or open up new exits. It's a shame that they never returned. And of course, I can't forget finding the warp to the Special World, playing through some challenging, often pretty bad levels, and once you beat them all, the world map and enemies get goofy retextures. It's such a weird reward, but that's why it's perfect. I also love how all the Special World levels are 90s slang words. I'm thankful this game didn't come out today. The way Super Mario World encourages you to find secrets and explore the map, offering you so many ways to get to the final castle, allowing you to make this adventure your own, it's easily its strongest feature. Taking place in a new region means we get some more wacky enemies. I like the Rexes where you step on them and they get all squishy. The Amazing Flying Hammer Bros gets my praise for having just the best name ever. I love the Grumpy Koopas where they find the shell but they're like, no, fuck you, I'm going nude. Galoombas, Goombas but round. Perfection. And the Koopalings are here again, but they have more varied methods of beating them, where in Mario 3 they were all pretty much the same. The final Bowser fight is super menacing, with the music going absolutely insane, and with Bowser frankly being the freakiest he's ever looked. You have the same moveset from Mario 3, now with the spin jump, my beloved. I really like the addition of the spin jump, how you have to decide whether to do a normal jump for more height, or spin to bounce off hazards. The Cape Feather is pretty much an unhinged Tanuki Leaf, and I love it. It's so much fun taking off from the ground and seeing how much distance you can fly, as well as spamming the close range attack. This easily has to be one of the all-time best power-ups. I really hope this comes in a 3D game one day. It also introduced one of the all-time best characters, Yoshi. I would give my life for this green goober, and hopefully he's okay if it's the other way around. I like all the abilities he gets from eating different colored Koopa shells, but I just like having a buddy around, with a bongo beat getting added to the background music. The soundtrack is obviously an icon, but what I like about it in particular is the sound font. It's hard to really describe it since I'm not a music buff, but I really like the sound of all the instruments, from the iconic steel drums of the overworld theme, to the old-timey piano in the athletic theme. I mean, the fact that the background music I use in some of my videos and even my outro music is fan-made custom music should show just how much I'm obsessed with it. The piano has to be my favorite, and I soy jack whenever indie composers sample it. The game looks really appealing too. I always love the look of 16-bit games now that the pixel art can be more colorful and detailed, and Mario World demonstrates this very well. All of the characters can be more expressive now, sometimes unintentionally, like Mario's idle sprite has this menacing aura to him. You never know what crimes he's planning with that poker face. The look of the foreground, the background, the UI, all look really charming. So this game is generally fun to play, but like, isn't Super Mario World just nice to think about too? Everything about it, from its visuals to sound design, just gives off good vibes. It has so much magic and good energy surrounding it that can only be topped by the game in the #1 slot. I know how a game plays is most important, but I also think what a game makes you feel is just as meaningful. And Super Mario World being a game that succeeds in both means it's an exceptional game in my eyes. But like I said, I don't think it's the best 2D Mario game. Some of the levels are straight up bad, like this one level that just spams a bunch of paratroopas, and we all know that one underwater level in Star Road. And really, The game kind of falls off once you get to Chocolate Island. The Valley of Bowser is dog shit, but it is my personal favorite game as I feel like I'm more attached to this game than the one in the top slot. Everything from listening to custom music to playing some fan-made hacks from the surprisingly still huge ROM hacking space. It's like how Mario Kart DS is my favorite Mario Kart, but do I think it's the best one? No. That being said, I can still confidently give my favorite the silver medal in a more objective ranking. Putting my immense Super Mario World bias aside, it's still an absolute treasure of a side-scroller. Only bested by one other. You already know what it is by now, but I like building suspense.
This game has the worst life system. Every time you lose all your lives, you get a game over screen and get sent back to the hub world. And then this fucking guy gives you 5 more lives anyway. So you basically...
You got a game over in Mario Wonder? Super Mario Bros. Wonder. You can't collide with other players in multiplayer, so 0 out of 10. I've thought it over for a hot minute, but I've concluded that Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the single best 2D Mario game. When the series felt dead for having no new entry for almost a decade, and Mario Maker pretty much telling us to make our own game, they dropped a reveal trailer for Mario Wonder out of nowhere and released only a couple months later, and the trailer pretty much entirely consisted of letting you know that this isn't a new Super Mario Bros. Game, it's a new Super Mario Bros. Game. We've never been so back. And then we actually got our hands on the game, and we were even more back, because it unsurprisingly lived up to the hype. We should probably start with the visuals, as it's the first thing you'll notice. And yeah, it looks amazing. Gone are the days of the backpack aesthetic, now we have something much more stylistic. And it's not just the graphics, but the personality shines so much more. They go for this blend of using a 3D model and make it look more 2D, something Spider-Verse. I like how all the characters pull the yippee when they do high jumps, Koopas get angry when you approach them, Goombas start panicking when they realize they're about to die. Everyone in this game spreads whimsy every step they take. I'd be here all day if I planned out every nice tidbit in the animation. Point being, this is the best a Mario game has ever looked, only rivaled by like Luigi's Mansion 3. And we finally have a refreshing narrative. Wonder takes place in the Flower Kingdom, residing right next to the Mushroom Kingdom. What a nice piece of world building that will probably never be brought up again. Prince Florian invited Mario and friends to, I guess, look at a Wonder Flower, which was just out in the open for Bowser to easily grab, fuse with the castle, and take over the entire kingdom. Oops.
I would not want to live in a world like this. This looks like Skibbity Toilet.
About the Wonder Flower, the person who touches it goes on... fucking... Is lean still a meme? And various wacky things can happen. It can make objects come to life, change up the controls, slow or speed up time, transform you into various things, or even have enemies break out into a musical. You never know what to expect when you touch these things, and that's what makes each level so unpredictable and memorable. And I love the castle levels where Bowser's evil Wonder procedurally changed the level by adding enemies and such. This is just what the series needed when in previous games each level felt very predictable. In New Super Mario Bros. U, when I expect Egyptian desert level, I get Egyptian desert level. In Wonder, when I expect Egyptian desert level, I get an Arabian desert palace with fun puzzles and a beautiful skybox. The themes of each world also deviate from the norm. While World 1 starts as your typical grasslands, it leads to a somewhat autumn-themed valley. World 3 has this tropical cavern theming, and World 5 is a spooky forest mixed with some slimy ruins. I don't like this one, but we'll get to that. The progression between these worlds are much less linear too. I love how they handle the Petal Isles, where you play small chunks of it throughout the game, and you can play worlds 4 through 6 in any order you want, meaning you finally don't have to do the lava world last. I did though, because I'm boring. It didn't seem to create difficulty progression issues like in Mario Land 2, so that's neat. While most of the main levels are blasts with each providing a new wonder effect, I want to give compliments to the break time levels. I just think it's neat that we have these mini challenges between the bigger levels to change up the pacing. I hate the search party levels though. Avoid at all costs. As expected, this game also has multiplayer, but now they remove collisions between the players. As much as I miss trolling other players, this was for the greater good and leads to a less frustrating experience. More about the characters, I love the huge roster of people you can play as. You got Mario, Luigi, the two Toads, Toadette, and Nabbit like in the new games, but not only is Peach playable instead of being a hostage, but Daisy finally gets recognized in a mainline Mario game since her debut in Mario Land. And not only that, but you no longer need to ride Yoshi, you can play as him on his own. And guess what? This is actually Yoshi instead of Josh. It's a shame he's the easy mode character though, because I want to play as him without people thinking I have a skill issue. Not a big deal since most of my deaths were from instant kill stuff anyways. But these characters are all stale compared to the single best character in the whole game.
Onward and upward.
I love the talking flowers so much. Somehow they make the corny, well that just happened type humor actually so endearing. I see him get some hate when he's completely harmless. All he does is give commentary and little quips as you walk by and y'all hate him. I don't understand how he intrudes on the gameplay or anything like that when, if anything, he enhances the game's silly tone.
I can feel the power!
Like, come on. That's what I love about Wonder. It's goofy and it's cheesy and it wears it on its sleeve. But anyways, we also got a ton of new enemies and many of them have some fun gimmicks. I like the Colonel guys that turn to popcorn when they get hot, or these firework bombs. Lots of fun little guys that, again, will probably never come back, as per Mario fashion. Apparently the designers for Wonder were given so much more creative freedom when making the game, and it really shows. Someone must have gone a bit too creative. The elephant power-up seems to be the game's biggest ick for some people, but I don't really mind personally. I take Mario becoming the animal over wearing the fur of a cat with a human head popping out. I do find it neat that we have a power-up of close-range combat, but I'm more into the other new power-ups, the bubble flower and the drill mushroom. Not only are they really fun to use, but I love the way all the characters get purple or black added to their color scheme. The drill mushroom costumes go so hard. I also really dig this new badge system. Equipping different badges gives you different abilities, from a parachute to a Spider-Man-like grappling vine. Some are callbacks to previous Mario games like the crouching jump from Mario 2. There's a few that even try to make the game harder, like one that has you constantly sprint or one that makes you invisible. And you better get good at all of these because the final badge challenge in the special world utilizes all of these badges and it's pretty difficult even with how many checkpoints there are. You're probably gonna die a lot, but it's all worth it because you get a badge that replaces the sound effects with a man. Is this not peak gaming? Although I was a tad disappointed how easy the game was. Like, I expect modern Mario games to not be that troubling, but I was hoping they could take the optional levels to their advantage to challenge those more experienced. If the level has 4-star difficulty, you'll probably only die like once or twice. But then again, that is what the expert badges are for. If you think a level's too easy, then try beating it while not being able to see yourself. And the more I think about it, this game handles difficulty options really well. There's Yoshi and Nabbit for those less skilled, and then there's expert badges for those more skilled. It helps ensure that people of any skill level will enjoy this game. A more significant gripe I have of Wonder is its deficiency in boss fights. I think fighting Bowser Jr. with his own Wonder powers is cool, I especially like how his form looks. But is he so cool I want to fight him 3 more times? I'm conflicted because each fight has different elements, but the way you beat him remains the same. He's the only boss outside of the final one too, and some worlds just don't have a boss. You could argue that Shining Falls final test sort of serves as a climax, and I guess it's an interesting approach to have a world end in a challenging level instead of a boss battle, but Fungi Mines has zero excuse. In the final level, you're a slime for like 10 seconds, and then you rescue the Poplins. That's it. There should have been this like tense escape sequence from the mines, but this is just horribly anticlimactic.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
The fact that this was the only rushed part in an overall polished game, it only makes it look worse. Wonder does fumble in some aspects, so I'm reluctant to call it perfect, but you know what? I really don't dwell on these issues that much simply from how fun the other 98% of the game is. If the main gimmick is delightfully weird and unpredictable, if it has a varied and expressive cast of characters, if almost every level provides new and exciting elements, who cares if it runs short once or twice? Wonder rightfully belongs on top of my ranking for being everything I wanted and everything the series needed. Although I was surprised to see from some people that this was a bit of a letdown. While you're totally allowed to have a less than positive opinion on this game, how you felt is how you felt, I can't help but feel that being disappointed was a result of unrealistic expectations. I only say this because this was me to an extent. While I really liked it at first, it didn't fully live up to my expectations of the next big Mario game. But I soon realized that I had the expectations of a 3D Mario game. Those are the titles that are super groundbreaking and define each generation. The side-scrollers were always on the simpler side, and they were only groundbreaking back in the day when 3D hasn't hit the market yet. So Wonder may not have been this icon as big as the likes of 64 or Galaxy, but it definitely was for the 2D Mario series. And replaying it without comparing it to those, it made me love the game so much more. So if in your case you were a bit let down at first, I would go back and replay with an open mindset. And if you're still not impressed, you may just not be interested in 2D Mario games anymore, but that's a-okay. Personally, I see Super Mario Bros. Wonder as the formula perfected. It takes the limitless creativity of the classic games and the larger scope and polish of the new games and combines them to create the definitive Mario side-scroller. I mean, I could have stopped much sooner by mentioning that the second level in the game has piranha plants singing. I mean, that should have been enough to convince you. Because of all this, I can confidently say that this is the best 2D Mario game, and it makes me excited for what this series has to offer in the future. But that's just my silly rambling. Let me know how you'd rank the games, or let me know what parts of my ranking you disagree with. I'm curious to see what y'all think. But before we end things, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who helped support my channel throughout this year. I mean, at the start of the year, I had 15 subscribers, and now I have over 4,000. This was a pretty big year for my channel, for better or for worse. But I'm glad you all enjoy my waffling and subpar gameplay videos. Hope you look forward to more in the future, and I'll see y'all next year. I still fucking hate Mario though.